I'm Dave Howell. I'm a freelance writer, journalist, broadcaster. I've been writing about tech and business for 30 years or thereabouts. Moment, I'm mostly writing for Silicon UK, IT Pro, Forbes, and a bunch of other smaller sort of tech and business outlets, a few magazines. Most of my stuff tends to be within the sort of tech and business sector. These days, it's a lot of copywriting, a lot of content production. That can be anything from a written piece of work, which is obviously my bread and butter. These days, it's more audio. Like this week's been sort of bonkers recording for loads of podcasts this week. So audio has just gone crazy. But it's all within the tech and business sector. That's kind of my bag. Well, typical day is press releases. That's maybe from a dozen, usually to 50 on a really bad day, if you like, and everything in between. That stuff that it drops in, I will scan it. What I tend to do is I always shift that into my pending folder, which is where I keep all of this stuff. When people send me stuff, they think it doesn't get looked at or it gets binned. That's not the case. It all gets put into a pending folder, so I get time to look at it later. But for me, it's a resource. So if something hits my desk that I need to see if there's anything that I can find for help, I do a keyword search in that folder, and that pulls up the press releases. Yeah, so that's usually what I do for press releases. Typical day. Well, I suppose it depends on what's on my desk at the time. Usually, it's structured around if there's any recording schedules for podcasting, because those are fixed in time, and then everything else wraps around that. Typically, I'm looking at probably 10 features a month or thereabouts. So that's 2 and a bit that need to be completed every week. So it's wherever they are in the process. Excuse me. What I tend to do is I split my day. So in the morning, when I'm sort of fresher and more alive, I do the write-ups, and in the afternoon I do prep work for whichever features are going to be written for next week. I send emails regularly. It stays open, and if anything's important, I will look at that. My day tends to split between that. It's either if there's a recording due that day, that's fine. That's fixed in stone. The morning's write-ups. Afternoon is prep work. That's right, yes, because I know what I'm writing about probably for the next 4 to 6 weeks, because I have a rolling editorial schedule, for my anchor clients and then for anybody that's just asked me to write something. So I know what that is. So when I'm looking at all of the emails that come in, I know what I'm writing about in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So if it's relevant, great. Then that particular email with a piece of research or whatever it is relevant to a feature. So great, there you go. If it isn't, it goes into the pending folder because it's not relevant, because I'm not covering that subject at the moment. That's one of the issues when PRs pitch me, and they obviously don't know what I'm writing about because I don't publish any kind of editorial schedule. Some magazines do, some magazines don't, because they don't know who I'm writing for. So it's a bit of a shot in the dark. So when they send me a message, that's fine. If it's relevant, great. If it isn't, then there's nothing I can do about that. It goes to my pending folder. But if it is relevant, that's great, because then I can use that contact as part of my research for whichever feature or podcast or whatever content I'm creating for a client, because it just happens to be relevant. But it's the same kind of thing. I will scan all of the headlines, and if it is a good hook, then great. Then it goes into the file for that particular feature's research, and then I'll come back to the contact when I'm ready to do the prep work. Well, that's all about research, isn't it? That's all about looking at each individual journalist and understanding what their sector is, what they've written about, that kind of thing. Don't pitch me health and beauty, for instance. I don't write about any kind of product stuff. I don't do reviews, so don't pitch me any products, because I don't do that. If you do, that's kind of instant turn off, because then that tells me that you haven't done your homework. You just sent out this blanket email to everyone in the tech sector, hoping that the scattergun approach will hit some kind of pay dirt, and that's never going to work. You need to do your homework. Have a good look at their back catalogue of work. What do they write about? Who are they writing for? If it's a good fit, then yeah, absolutely. Then do send the message. But you've got to do your homework. You've got to understand who these people are and what they're writing about. The other thing which is also linked to the research part is where I get a load of is I'll do a feature, it goes live, cybersecurity, for instance. Yeah, 2 days later, I will get 20 emails from PRs saying, "Oh, you did this thing about cybersecurity. We have a client in the cybersecurity sector. Can we do something about?" Well, no, I've just written about cybersecurity. Yes. So why would I want to write about that again? Yeah, come back to me in about 3 or 4 months' time when I'm thinking about that subject again. Why would I want to write about that again? Yes, for me, if you're going to, if there is a press release, yes, do send that. But in the top of the message, just pre-say the whole thing. Just give me some bullet points about what it's about, headline, bullet points, and the press release on the bottom. Because what I'll read is the title, and if it's relevant, the bullet points. And if that is relevant, that gets copied the whole lot into my research for that particular feature if it's relevant. Yeah. Don't just send me the bullet points, because then I've got to come back to you and say, yeah, great, send me the press release. That's just another email I've got to send. Yeah. So title, bullet points, then the press release. It depends who they're from, because sometimes the press releases are quite good. Usually it's just a quote from the CEO or someone. But sometimes they've gone a bit further and they've gone to the industry and asked them for their opinions and their views of the research. And that's quite useful. You can either use a snippet of that, either pre-say what they've actually said, or what I'll do sometimes is I'll use those guys and say, ah, okay, you said that about that report. And if they've, say, put 2 or 3 of those on the bottom, that's great for me, because then I can go to those companies and ask them for original comment. You commented on this research, can we do a more in-depth Q&A, for instance? Because then I haven't got to find them, because they've done that for me. That's great. So if you can help me to find companies which are relevant to the story that I haven't got to go and do research for, that's really useful. But you're right, pulling out large chunks of copy from a press release, that's never going to get through the subbing guys, and the editors will just, they're never going to go for that. A few lines maybe, or even take the quote and then just pre-say it yourself. Just use that as a jumping off point, and then just rewrite the thing, because they will do that. I mean, I don't know if lots of editors put this stuff through copy scraping, for instance, and just check, because it will come back and say, yeah, you lifted that verbatim from a press release, which is on their website. Some editors are happy with that, they're fine. Other editors, absolutely not. You have to go the extra mile. Most press releases are about something very specific, like a piece of research, for instance, or it's a product, or they're talking about a particular subject. That's fine, but that's no use to me. That's like, where's the angle? Why would I want to use that piece of research in a feature? So the PRs need to think, okay, we've got this piece of research, whatever it's about. What would the feature be about? How would that feature be structured? You need to go that extra mile and give me an angle. Why would I want to use your research, and what's it for? You can't just say cybersecurity. Well, I need an angle. I need something more focused than that. So if it's cybersecurity, work from home, and you've done some research about how crap people's security is on their laptops, for instance, that's the angle. So you have to think about what the angle is for my feature. Why would I want to use your particular expert or your particular piece of research? So PRs, if they can go the extra mile and wrap it in an idea for a feature, if I think that's going to be pretty good for my editor, because I know what they like, then that kind of idea is fully formed. Then I can pitch that at my editor. If he commissions it, we're away. But I need that angle. Just say, do you want to speak to our CEO? That's no angle. Why would I speak to your CEO? What for? Why would I want to do that? Why would I want to write about your product or whatever it is? So give me an angle which I can pitch at my editors. Sometimes it's useful if you've got any assets that you can attach as well. Obviously, I'm doing long form, so I tend to request mugshots of everyone. So send me the mugshot, and so I don't have to request it. I tend to put that in my requests, which I send it anyway. Do send me a mugshot. But if you got any other assets, then do send them. Because
when you mean assets, what do you mean?
It can be anything. Images, pieces of video, audio snippets. Editors are always asking me for any kind of multimedia.